But other than that, I'm trying to keep it professional and to the point, and also fan out at the same time.
Honestly, don't stress, dude. I'm in Australia. When I first started doing tutoring, I had internet issues all the time. Still occasionally have
Oh
internet
shit.
issues, so there's a bit of that. But
Okay.
whatever happens, we'll work it out. It's totally fine.
Cool. Cool. Cool.
Yeah. So you're in Salem?
Yeah, Salem, Oregon, and I actually decided to reach out to you after you did the show with Cool on Sound. I wanted to
Oh
go
yeah.
to that, but I was out of town, and I was really disappointed because that was the only opportunity that I could have seen you. I don't know if you're coming back to Oregon at any point, but
Hopefully, I liked it there a lot. The food was really
dude,
good.
yeah, the vibe is good
Yeah.
for
Cool city.
bass music specifically. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was my inspiration. I was like, okay, well. You know, a lot of other producers just don't have time. Maybe I'll shoot my shot and see if he can respond to that. And I actually was 100% down for that first transaction. That's how dedicated I am for this to work out. You know, I've been
Yeah.
struggling for a long time. So,
Yeah, I gotta admit, when I saw that, I was like, no way, that's insane. But no,
yeah, man.
I'm glad we ended up with this because I think as much as like yeah, it's a good sum of money, and I love to earn money. Like yeah, I feel like you could get a lot of bang for buck out of just doing this, and you know, ultimately, I just want to help where possible. So if I can
Yeah,
save
I'm
you
just gonna
two and a
keep
half grand,
I'm just gonna keep giving you money until I reach my goal. So
well,
that's just what I'm gonna do, I guess.
I'm happy to take it for as long as I can actually offer something. But once I'm capped,
Okay.
I'm capped. But nah, I'm sure we can.
Okay.
I'm sure we can get some shit done. I think it'd be cool.
Awesome. I appreciate you.
Yeah. So what's your setup like at the moment? Because I know we were talking about that a little bit. What headphones are those? It kind of look like Audio Technicas,
I think they are.
or are they
They're,
Beats?
hold on a second. They're Soundcore. Soundcore. So
So
nothing special.
sure. Let me look them up.
I used to have Beats, the original producers from the first series,
Oh
and then
yeah.
they took a crap on me. I loved them because they vibrated. You had the batteries in them. Insane amount of like frequency range when there's batteries in the front of your
Yeah.
headphones. It's just
Damn.
a vibrating ears.
That's
But they
sick.
don't work anymore, so
Yeah. Oh, that sucks. Okay, fair enough. And speaker wise, have you got a?
that is out of commission. So I had
Oh damn.
these 12-inch JBL monitors that have a power amp, but the power amp just decided to go one day. So
Damn.
I have to fix the power amp. So I don't have any live audio. I just have headphones and then,
Yeah.
nothing else,
Fair
which
enough.
I'm trying to change at this point. But my whole career, I've been kind of producing on headphones. So that gives you indication of how my quality never expanded was simply because of that issue and, having issues with that and technology.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I've been doing like my primary, I would say, is headphones, but yeah, I definitely found like using speakers. So like one of my friends was like, I've had this a couple of times where I've sent him tunes and he's been like, "Did you make this on headphones?" And I was like, "Yeah, how can you tell?" He's like, "It's just something about the mix, but it's like
Okay.
it's a volume level thing is generally what it is
Yes.
with headphones because you can hear everything in headphones. You don't. I find you don't tend to like stress as much about the volume level of stuff. It's better for sound design, I reckon. You get more clarity and you can kind of hear your
Right.
sounds a bit better. But yeah,
Hmm.
speakers are really good for kind of getting like volume levels and balance right because you can hear that a lot more. You know, it's like almost things are
Hmm.
fighting for space a little bit more when you're on speakers. But yeah, it can be a good thing.
Right. Yeah. So that, segues into the first basic question is the fundamentals of mixdowns and then your personal specs to mixdowns because there's always a video out there, some instruction on how to do mixdowns, but then you got different genres of music that might have a different, spec range that or do you believe or say that it just follows the same like recipe and the same function to all mixdowns, or is it changed between genre of music?
I would say there's definitely fundamentals that apply to to all mix downs, but then there's definitely different techniques and strategies that apply to different genres.
Okay.
What I'll do, actually, I'll jump into a couple of things that I do. They're kind of, I don't know if I'd say they're tricks. They're not shortcuts, but they're things that really helped me. I'll just do a little screen share in Ableton right now. You said you said you're in FL?
Yes, that's what
Actually,
I've
you know
used
what?
since the beginning. So
I'll bust open FL. So I've got both. I've produced in FL for the first like 5 years, and there's still things about FL that I absolutely love. So,
yeah, you did
I'm
survive in FL, right?
yeah, I did. Wow, how did you know that? That's crazy. Is that
Well,
just
I've been following you for a minute, and
damn?
anybody who's ever used my DAW, and I had an interest of learning how did they get their mix. I mean, John Gooch is one of those producers who uses FL primarily and does his mastering himself on FL. I'm just like, I I'd have no idea how to fucking do that or
Yeah,
like what his process is. So it's just like getting frustrated over the years of hitting roadblocks and hitting the same issues and stuff. So,
yeah,
but
yeah. Sometimes it's little things. I definitely found getting a headphone upgrade helped me a little bit in the
yep,
earlier
yep.
days, and like yeah, having a good like reference set, whether it's headphones or speakers, definitely helps a lot. But yeah, I think you could probably do a good mix down on anything. But yeah, it's just finding different techniques, I suppose. But
Hmm.
all right, yeah, I'll share my screen in FL. I'll just see if I'm getting sound out here. This should be fine. So also, I'm recording this, so you'll get a recording of this call afterwards.
Sweet. I appreciate that.
You won't see my face in it just because I can't seem to get my camera to record in two different places at once, and I can't screen
Okay.
record Discord because it disables as soon as I click out of the window. So there won't be my
Interesting, but I'll
face.
still hear you.
Yeah, yeah. So you'll hear both
Okay.
of us, and
Okay.
you'll hear the audio. So and
Okay.
obviously see the screen. Okay, is that audio coming through?
Yes. Yes.
Easy. Okay, very good. So one thing that can really help. I think this is something I started doing a little bit more recently. I'll just find a couple tracks to drop in. But I use a free plugin called Span. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I actually have it.
Okay, hell yes.
Don't know how to use it, but have it.
Easy. That's all right. Yeah, we can get into that. So let's just say, and this will depend on the genre you're doing. So I think it's good to pick reference tracks that kind of apply to the sounds you're
Sure.
trying to make. But
Mhm.
using a reference track to get a reference point for the like spectral balance of your mix can really help. So for me, I found I could kind of glue things together well, where I could get my drums and my basses and stuff to sound like punchy and sort of like everything was audible and like sounded hard hitting, but just something about it was like, I don't know, it just sounded lackluster or whatever. And then I
Right.
started doing reference tracks, and I found there were certain things about my mix that just I couldn't hear because my ears were just biased towards certain frequencies, and then just
Yeah.
having like a visual reference helped me sort of tidy up. So what I've got in my project, I mean, this template, I don't have this template on my laptop, so this is like, I haven't used this in a while, but I've
So
got
when you use templates, it's just designed for the mix down already, or you do the mix down after you load the template and then use it?
this one, it's just got some buses and sidechains. So basically, from my philosophy with templates is it's just getting rid of work that you're pretty much definitely going to do every time. And for me, the things that I do every time pretty much are sidechain to the drums, and then usually I'll do some grouping. This is actually probably a little bit elaborate for me in some ways because I don't always separate things into these kinds of groups, but I definitely always have a drum group and I definitely always have an everything else group. And those things just sort of speed up the process for me when I'm writing because I know I'm definitely going to use sidechain. So I have a little route here. So what I do, this is more a workflow thing, but it does definitely lead to a good mix down more quickly. But actually, I think this is all like linked up. Maybe no. Okay, I haven't got drum samples in here yet, but I'll just pull in a snare. Cool, there's a snare. Und kick. Yeah, it's a nice kick actually. I like that one. But yeah, I've got drum route here. Generally, what I'll do So I just pick my kick channel and my snare channel. And then I have, yeah, this is kind of elaborate, honestly, this template, but it does the trick. So I'll feed my kick into a channel specifically for sidechain where I can basically like process the kick as an audio trigger. I'll show you what it's for in a sec, but and my snare into the snare one. And then what these do is
turn down the volume.
Yeah,
well.
so that this is just like an FL Studio specific thing, but yeah, turning down the volume. This is just because they're oh, actually no, I don't want to do that for that. Hang on, it's for the next step. So I'll reset that. And then they go into the sidechain with the volume turned all the way down. So this is whenever you're doing like sidechain stuff, but you don't actually want to hear that signal come out of the channel you're sending it to. You turn it all the way down, and then so what I'm using for sidechain is Kickstarter 2, or Kickstart 2. Simplifies everything. I've had so many like elaborate sidechain setups for specific things, like just getting the getting the length in a way that I can control it, or doing like audio triggers or MIDI triggers. I did all this elaborate shit, and then I found this plugin, and now I just like basically don't even think about it anymore.
I heard your technique with the gate when you talked to the Ableton music producer podcast, and I took on that idea, but with the Fruity Balance, which just cuts volume in and out, and I automated the volume to cut out for just the bass every time the kick and snare. I manually drawing it as a
that's
very
pretty...
long-winded way of doing it, but that's how I've been sidechaining as of recently, because I could never figure out compressor versions of sidechain. I just could see visually, that's how I learned mostly what this is a visual thing.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to see that with the compressor stuff.
I think that is a good way to think about sidechain, because I think, yeah, if you think about it with compressors and ratios and stuff, it's kind of, I don't know, yeah, it gets overcomplicated. I like the idea, like, you're basically just cutting a hole for your drums. Yes, and like, particularly with the genre that we make, like, it's, you're cutting basically silence. So you want something that does that. What you could do, actually, just thinking about it, this is like another thing that's like kind of FL Studio specific, but if you actually just draw... All right, let me do this with, okay, let's say I'm sidechaining this track. If I just create an automation clip, it's probably easier if I can see the kick or snare that I'm doing it in, so I might just drag this in so I can see it. But if you just draw one, so I just automate, do that, and draw my little sidechain thing here.
And to avoid the click, I usually leave like a little
gap at the beginning. Yeah,
and so it dips out, and then it cuts out that clicking possibility if there is one.
Yeah,
I've learned that through various videos and stuff.
Yeah, that's good. I find so a little bit of silence right before the snare, or like a little bit of like everything getting quieter before the transient can also make it hit harder. You'd probably need to do a little bit of like track delay to make it do that with this method. But what I was going to say was, if you just draw one of these like automation things, you can trigger it with MIDI in the pattern. So if you are doing your drum pattern here, you can just let me just show all. I could trigger this like envelope every time my drums hit, like this. Theoretically. All right.
Yeah, so it takes out the volume essentially.
Yeah. And so instead of having to draw like a whole track's worth of fades, this should work. Maybe? Let's see if I can get that to happen. Oh, I'm triggering the wrong thing here. There we go. That should do it. Okay, that's like a really extreme envelope, but you get the picture. That is one thing you could do, but if it were me, I would recommend spending $15 and getting Kickstart, and it just makes everything super easy. So what it is, it's like this. It's an audio triggered volume envelope. So it's not a compressor. There's no like ratio settings or anything like that. All you're doing is literally just triggering the same envelope. And I use one for both my kick and my snare. But it just has a really good display. So what I'll do, I'll send this track
Do you have a
to.
kickstart on the snare and the kick channel separately?
So I
Or
actually
they need it?
have, well, I have like a sidechain channel, and that's for
Okay,
everything that
right.
I want to sidechain, which usually is pretty much everything except the drums and maybe the hi-hats. So what I do in this instance, I might like have these groups and then run them in there, but generally I'll feed everything through a sidechain channel. So I'll change the color of this just to like emphasize it, but yeah, this sidechain channel, yeah, I'll run everything through, and then I put my sidechain processing on there, and I just use these little adjacent tracks here, just as processing for the triggers. So the way this works, this plugin, if you go into processing around the back here, you can decide where it takes, where it's listening for a sidechain trigger. So you've got your audio coming in from the signal that you want to sidechain, so your bass or your noise or
Right.
whatever it is, and then
Yeah.
the sidechain here, and that is basically listening for a second channel input, which in this case
So
I put
two
my
and three are sidechained to four, is what you're saying.
so four is the audio being sidechained, and it's being sidechained to 5 and 6 here.
Okay, but you when you highlight four, it's connected to three and two.
Yeah, so that's going out. So that's
Okay.
basically going in. I can have whatever. So yeah, there's a lot of complicated shit in here that shouldn't be here. I think this template's a little bit too elaborate. But
Yeah, yeah. Because
yes.
I haven't used any of the connectors at the bottom usually.
Oh, true.
So two and three are connected when you press what on four to do that. You have the
Yeah. So if I'm highlighting 4, I can see where the audio is going out to.
okay.
So it's not
And then
going
you
out directly to the
sidechain
master.
only, route only, because there's many features that you can choose on the arrows that you just sidechain only
For
or
sure.
yeah, that's what I don't know.
Oh, you mean when you like when you go to route something and then you can do
Yeah,
side check? Oh
yeah,
yeah, I see. I don't usually use these buttons, but I think yeah, okay. All it does is just send audio to that track turned all the way
gotcha.
down. So it's not
Okay.
yeah. I'll unlink these just because I think this is like unnecessary and just adding
Okay.
like yeah. Let's just set this to default.
More
Just
curiosity on what you're doing.
for sure. Yeah. No worries. Yeah. I'll simplify these because I think yeah. Just adding convolution here.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just do that. And I'll also do it for these ones. I love this feature with FL where if you can click and drag the save mixer track state and it'll just copy it. Like you can just drag it
Yep.
onto another track. It's such a sick feature.
Yeah, it's easy to keep
Yeah.
workflow going.
Yeah. Workflow, this is one of the things I really miss about FL is it's like kind of a head fuck for like if you've learned in any other DAW like Logic or Ableton or Cubase or whatever, it's a totally different way of thinking about production, but I think it so
Right.
favors like just writing good beats and not thinking too hard about, like intricately mixing everything, but you kind of build your mix down separately and then you just focus on writing shit. I think it's really sick.
I always thought that FL Studio was like the artist version because it's like a canvas and you paint your
Absolutely.
ideas on it.
Yeah.
And then like Ableton and Pro Tools is like the intellect version of it where you
Yeah.
map everything out. So,
Yeah.
I'm an artist by nature, so that's kind of where this kind of clicked for me. It was like an artist vision of how to make music
Yeah.
put to a software. And so that's where I picked it up.
Nice. Yeah. Canvas is always the word I use when I talk about the layout of FL. And I
Yep,
say, like, you've got a
exactly.
canvas because you're not worried about, you don't have track lanes and you're not, like, restricted to where you put things vertically. You can kind of arrange things
Right.
visually how you like them. And as long as, left to right, they're in the right spot, you're good.
Precisely. Yeah.
Yeah. Good door. I think it's sick. People, it's underrated.
It's hated.
Yeah.
People hate on
People
it
rag on it.
so much.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, you can get the same sound from a lot of different DAWs. But you just have to have that aptitude.
Yeah, I think I honestly find it's usually people who are new to production that rag on different doors. They'll be like, oh, that's like a noob door, or that's a shit door, or whatever. I'm like, I've met so many artists that use the strangest shit and make amazing music. I know a guy who makes really crazy sound design shit, and he uses Audacity. Like he just
wow.
he has no mix down capability. He just has like volume and then like pre-computed
Wow.
effects that he does, and he's
Oh my
his music's weird, but it's cool. Like, and it's definitely big brain. Like he's smart. And so yeah, even like if you can make tunes in Audacity, it's really not about the door.
Exactly.
Anyway, I digress. But I'll show you how this plugin works. So yeah, basically, take your kick. I don't even really need these extra channels here. It's just to kind of keep everything organized. But theoretically, I'll just label this. I shift click. All right, so I'll just call this kick. Call this snare. And I'll just get rid of these other ones to simplify this. So I just feed my kick in to the sidechain channel turned all the way down. So yeah, if you're used to right-clicking and going sidechain to this track, that's the same.
Okay.
And it'll just, yeah, send it in basically like turned all the way down. That's all it's doing.
Okay.
I don't know why the fuck that's routed there. But yeah, so when you basically go to the channel where you want to have the sidechain happening and add an instance of Kickstarter, and then you go into processing, you can actually just click auto map and it'll pick whatever channel it thinks the sidechain is. And it's usually right. I don't know. Well, it's not usually right, but you know, it's usually right. But yeah, now if you look, you'll see nothing for some reason.
No signal.
No signal. Give me a sec. Oh, it's because these ones are still routed. So what it'll do is it'll select. It orders the the inputs from left to right. So right now sidechain input was insert 5, which was right next to it, but I've disconnected insert 5 and 6. So the first channel going from left to right that's feeding into this sidechain is now the kick. So that should work, and it's sidechain 1. Cool. So now we can see the kick. The beauty of this plugin is all you're doing is you're triggering a volume envelope, and you just have a couple of like presets that you can add in, and you're just dragging the length of it. I personally like this one because it's just like a hard hitting, like go to 0, very quickly come back up.
Yeah. And so you have 2 Kickstarters on this channel?
Yeah, so I'll use one for my kick and then one for my snare, generally just because the area that I want to cut a hole for is different between my kick and my snare. Sometimes it's not, and I like the idea of having it be the same sometimes, but sometimes it just sounds better to have them separate. So my kick in this instance is like, it's got a pretty long tail, so I'll cut like a pretty long hole for it. And then the snare, yeah, I have a second instance for that. And also, for that, I'll have to select a different sidechain input. So I've got that as input 2. So that's the second one left to right going in. And so this one's a little bit shorter. So I kind of probably only want to cut a hole that big. But yeah, I'll show you now. I'm just running this this whole Bunchen track into the sidechain thing. And I've probably got that volume envelope still on, so I'll just delete that. Okay. Where are we? Oh yeah, probably should send it to the master. It's probably a bit confusing with like extra drums and shit going on, but you can kind of see. Actually, no. Let's just not put a track in. I'll put a bass in there. See what I've got. BSS. I think I've got a fucking. Cool. Let's use this random fucking Euro bass. Link it to a track. Yeah, there it is. Okay, I'm just gonna move that. I'm gonna wrap that in. Yeah. But you can see on Kickstarter where the hole is being cut. Yeah, I can hear you.
I think you cut out.
Oh, sorry. My internet probably clapped out for a sec. We good?
I thought it was me. I was like, oh, no.
Sorry. Yeah. No, that's my Australian internet. Did my video die? Looks like it did.
I think, yeah, I did. So that's why I was wondering if I died or if it was you. There we go.
Oh, yeah. My stream stopped as well. Damn, that's random. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is Australian level
It's
internet.
all good.
Oh, I just realized.
It's horrible about having issues and anxiety about it.
It just occurred to me you wouldn't be able to see. Okay, if I just go to FL Studio here. Okay, yeah, I just realized you won't be able to see Kickstarter. So I'll turn. You will lose audio for a bit, but just so you can see the plugin window, I have to switch to screen capture instead of window capture. But
Interesting.
okay, now if I do this, you can see Kickstarter.
Watch stream. Let's see. Hold on.
You can see these two plugin windows.
Yes, I can see
Yeah.
that.
So I just realized they weren't up before. But yeah, this is the plugin I'm talking about. So you're feeding in, yeah. I don't know if you could see any of this before, like with the sidechain input and stuff.
Now I see. Yeah, I see all that.
Okay, cool. So
Linking it to the sidechain channel.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, left to right, it just like looks at all of the inputs going into
Gotcha.
this, and it'll order them one to whatever it is. So
So you're
first-
sidechaining it to everything, including the bass, except for the drums. So like the FX, the pads, the synths are all being sidechained too, or just the basses?
Usually pretty much everything. Depends. Honestly, it's really context dependent, but I find, yeah, if you're trying to make like hard hitting, aggressive stuff, usually sidechaining everything sounds pretty good. Maybe let the pads go through, but nah, usually I'll even sidechain the pads. The only thing that I won't sidechain is maybe the hi-hats, sometimes vocals. If I've got any vocals or acapellas, I'll run them separately. I might do sidechain on them as well, but I'll have like a separate channel that I am doing sidechain on them because I don't want it to be as extreme usually. But yeah, for the most part, like for aggressive bass music stuff, like sidechaining everything sounds best, I think. So yeah, just to demonstrate the visual here, like, because the only sort of like closest match to being able to see like this is cutting fades with automation like you're doing. So you're able to see the length of the kick and, you know, like see how long you want that hole to be. But the beauty of Kickstart is that it shows you both the drum channel that you're so I can just push play here. You can see both the drum. So in yellow is obviously the drums that I'm sidechaining to, and then in white behind it is the signal that I'm sidechaining. And being able to see that, I can see exactly where those overlaps are, and it's even good for like if I want to phase align my basses. I don't do this all the time, but I think it's sometimes just nice. If you want that extra kind of, I don't know, gluiness to your mix, you can phase align your basses. So if I run this through, this is just another, let's call this sub. If I run this into my sidechain here, and just make a pattern for it. Sometimes what I like to do, this is not necessarily a crucial rabbit hole, but it's just something I think about. I can see how my kick, the sub end of my kick, is lining up with the bass. Because I tend to find what sounds best is if you can get when the kick finishes and the bass comes in, they're in phase with each other, and then what you end up with when you print the track is just like a perfect like sub the whole time, rather than like a kick and then a gap and then the bass. You kind of have this like sausage, this sustained sausage with a kick transient at the top. So if I do it in this instance, I probably just like draw separate envelopes. Yeah. So I can see it's like a little bit late, so I might either delay this a little bit, or delay is sometimes a good way to do it. Yeah, let's try like that. It's probably about right there.
Yeah, it's kind
so you can see it's a bit janky here, but then right on that last oscillation, it overlaps pretty nicely. So I'd probably go for something like that, and then just clone that, alignment. So every time the kick triggers, it's like aligned with the bass. But yeah, that's not crucial. I don't mind like if that doesn't happen, but if I can make that happen without like screwing the track up too much, I do really like to phase align my basses. It's just satisfying, I guess. But yeah, anyway, so the point was sidechain, and yeah, I 100% recommend this plugin. It's $15, and it will just simplify this part of it, and you can save your presets, and you're good to go. So you can
Awesome.
boot up your project, and if you don't want to use sidechain, you can always delete it at the time. But if you're using sidechain for 90% of your projects, it doesn't hurt to have that, like ready to go.
Right.
So that's one thing. Anyway, it's actually funny. I got sidetracked. The other thing I was going to show you was referencing on Span. So
Yes.
I'll boot up Span here. Yeah, here we go. Voxengo Span. There's a couple of things you got to do with this to set it up, and I'm glad this is recording because it might be easier to go back and look at this. When you first boot up Span, it won't give you the groups bar, so you want to go into your settings here and just go show groups bar. And then basically what you want to do is set it up so that you can view two waveforms over, like two. God, my phone is going crazy right now. I just mute that. Okay. So you get your track and then a reference track, and you can see the waveforms overlaid. So what I'll do is I'll just pull up one of my tracks, and then I'll pull up that Bunchen track again.
You could pull up Civilized Defense, because that
Oh,
was
yeah.
something I was listening to. And you ever had those early moments in your career where you're like listening to your idols and you're like, why am I even doing this? You just like lose confidence in yourself. Yeah, I listen to Civilized Defense. I'm like, oh,
Oh, fuck yeah.
my music's poo poo.
I know that feeling, dude, all the time, 100%. Even, like, maybe less nowadays, but still, every now and then
Of
I
course
hear
now,
something,
yeah.
every now and then I hear something that someone else made, and I'm like, shit, man, that's so good.
Yeah,
But
I
it
know,
motivates
yeah,
you. I mean, it's
does,
good
it
to, like, take the pressure off yourself, and, like, you can't sound exactly like everyone else, but it also is good. Like, I've definitely learned from those moments and been like, oh, shit, like, I just study stuff that does that for me and try and figure out, like, what...
Right.
But no, I'm flattered. Thanks, man.
Definitely.
Alright, so I'll just make a channel for... Actually, yeah, let's just call this CivDef. And then I'll change the color just for visibility. Curl. Alright, so here's the track. Here's Span. Obviously, I can see what's going on there. And then I'll pull in this Bunchen track here. Sonically, I think these are going to be different, so I wouldn't necessarily reference these tracks to each other because I think there's going to be sort of a different goal. But yeah, what I'll do is I'll try and volume match them roughly. Like I'll try and make them close to the same volume. Yeah, here we go. So my CivDef is like pretty loud. Okay. What I'll do is, run Bunchen to his own channel. So, which one? Okay, so Bunchen's this one.
And by the way, I can't hear the audio.
Oh, yep. Hopefully you should be able to see Span, but yeah, thanks for reminding me. This is one of those things that I'm keen to figure out a solution for. I think it's going to be some weird routing thing, but... Alright, let's go back to FL Studio here. Okay, so let's route. So a route Bunchen. Okay, let's just call this one Bunchen. I can feed this into Span, and in the same way, I should be able to turn it all the way down, and it'll work. I won't need to hear it. I'll just be able to see it on Span. So when I go into Span, basically what I do, okay, I'm gonna have to switch over again just so you can see what I'm doing in this window.
You're good.
Alright, let's change windows. Sweet. Okay. You can see that. Yeah, cool. So in Span here, I go into the back-end processing. I should... Oh, actually, this might be a different instance. There's a version of Span, it's like the VST and then the VST3 one. Doesn't let you do sidechain input. It's really annoying. Yeah, right, okay. This is always the most annoying thing. I'm like in the middle of explaining something and then I'm like, wait, some goofy thing is happening.
My mind is filling in the space of understanding where you're going and why.
Okay, here we go. Yeah. Okay, so there's the VST. I'll just swap these out. hopefully this should fix it. So not the VST3 version, just the VST version.
Okay.
I don't know why this is a thing. I think I may have just installed them at different times and then they updated it. But
Oh yeah, my browser is a mess with all that. I have doubles of some stuff.
Yeah.
Data loss and transferring and blah blah blah.
it's a nightmare. Okay, here we go. So now we're
I'm
going
not
back.
organized at all.
I'm the same. I just paste shit everywhere. I'm trying to get more organized because it helps, but yeah, I'm the same. All right, auto map. Cool. Okay, so now input 2. So you can feed in a bunch of stuff to span and do crazy shit, but all I want really is just to have a second input going into input 2. So that's going to be this Bunchen track. So I've just selected that. And now the other thing I have to do is go into routing and just select it. So it just orders it like it'll do like left and right. So the stereo pairs will just go in order. So first track will be left and right, and then C and D, and then the second track will be E and F. That'll be left and right. So yeah. Anyway, I'll just select E and F from in 3 and 4, and that should do it. Select the underlay as number 2, so that's the second input. And if we go into number 2, that's the Bunchen track we're looking at. So if I mute SivDef, we should still see this. Yeah.
Okay. So that's just Bunchen.
Yeah, so that's Bunchen going into channel 2 because we just routed it in. It's in 3 and 4. And then, yeah, in this first group, we have in green is this is SivDef going into this channel, and then in red is the Bunchen track, which we're sending in from a separate channel. And we can see them both. So what I do from there, I'll put span at like the end of this effects chain, and then any EQ tweaks that I do will happen to the track that that's going through this mixer channel rather than the sidechain one or the like the external one. So what I'll do is I'll start doing
post mix down of your songs.
Yeah. So this will be like once I've kind of got like the volume levels happening where I want them to. You can do this at any point, really. I think it's good because if you're in like the composition stage, you can find individual elements that are really bright. Because sometimes if you do like an EQ on the master, it does just like if I put like a shelf and I drop off the treble, it does just sound like all the treble disappears and doesn't sound like good. Whereas if I find one particularly bright element in the mix down and then turn that down, that can be a solution. But ultimately, this is just a good way to kind of like find like a good spectral balance. So what I'll do, I'll put, actually no, you won't be able to hear audio, you will in the recording though, but I'll just show you visually what I do here. So I can see that SivDef is really bright, there's like a peak around like 10K, so I'll just like go through and drop that out. And then like there's also a lot more mid-range in the Bunchen tracks. I might just boost the mid-range in SivDef and see if that... Might pull out some of the, like that 2-3K area.
I think 4K in particular is a bad frequency for a lot of people. I guess like babies scream at 4K.
Yeah, your ears are
something
super
said by
sensitive to it.
producers. Yeah, so like that's just naturally what you want to try to avoid boosting,
Yeah.
I guess.
It's actually pretty funny. So my dad's a guitarist. Like he played like blues and kind of like heavier stuff. And
Hell yeah.
so I grew up like amps and a lot of that stuff. When you run a guitar through an amp, it tends to be a lot of peak around that like 2 to 4K area, around like 3K. So because I grew up listening to that, my ears are a little less sensitive to it. Like I actually just like
wow.
lost not like I don't have like severe damage, but there was just like a little bit of less. So my mixes, there tends to be a bump. Well, definitely earlier. I've noticed it more now, and I'm kind of conscious of it. But there tends to be a bump around 3K. If you listen to my older shit, you'll see it for sure. There's like this bump around 3K. But that's also where a lot of good tone is for basses and stuff. It's that kind of like nasally, like narky region. And so if you get like good bass detail, you don't want it to be super loud, but that's a good spot for like detail because your ears are super sensitive to it, so they pick up little tonal differences. But yeah, that's just like a weird thing for me. I always end up with like these big peaks around like 3K because it's like I like making stuff sound good in that area.
Yeah, me too actually. And I always wondered why it was like a shriek frequency for people, but then I was like, that sounds really good if I'm using something like the Saturator on FabFilter or Omniside. I don't know if you ever used that
Yeah.
distortion VST. It's a
Yeah.
really good one, similar to the FabFilter's Saturator.
Oh, like
It's
Saturn.
similar. Yeah, Saturn.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Right. Yeah, Homicide's wild actually. The way that
I
plugin
love it.
works is
I
so
love it.
strange. Like, because I think it does like I played with it. I think it does it like splits. It either is doing peaks or like band passes. It's got like a bunch of band passes. Yeah, crazy.
That's what I love about it. It makes it like you're doing filtration within the distortion. And I know there's other VSTs that do that, but it was just an interesting way of looking at it back in the day.
Yeah, that's wild. It's such a bizarre plugin, but I think it's genius. Sounds good. Yeah, so in this instance, I can see my peaks are kind of hitting around the same volume as what they are in the Bunchen track, so don't really want to boost that too much. But yeah, so this is a good thing to do if you've got your mix down kind of where you want it, but it's just feeling a little bit like lackluster, or you play it on speakers and it's just like, yeah, for some reason it doesn't pop.
Right.
Bit of spectral balance can help a lot. So that's one thing I do. Span is free. Obviously, I think it should, both the VST3 and the VST version should have this like ability to route secondary inputs in. I think when I installed them, I installed the like VST version later. So I might just have a newer version on this. But yeah, anyway, obviously if you run into this problem, you can always just try doing what I did, just use the VST instead of VST3. But yeah, spectral balancing helps a lot. But I'll show you a couple of other things that I do to kind of help myself out. So in Ableton, I think you can do this in FL, and actually what I might even do is build like a patcher thing for this. But I'll just do it on the mixer channels for now. I 100% recommend isolating different parts of your mix when listening to your mix down. Ultimately, your brain can only focus on, apparently it's just like 2 or 3 things at a time, or, you know, I would argue maybe only 1 thing at a time, but when you're listening to a whole mix down of stuff, and you've got like kicks, snares, basses, hi-hats, melodic elements, plucks, whatever, when you've got all that shit going on, it's really hard for your brain to like put the whole thing together and figure out where there's like an anomaly, or one thing's really loud or one thing's really quiet. Isolating different parts of your mix just like simplifies it, so you can really focus on in each area what is missing or what is too prominent. So what I have on my master in Ableton, and I can do the same thing in FL, I have a low pass, a band pass, a high pass, an effect plugin that will sum everything to mono, an effect plugin that will isolate just the sides, and then I have hotkeys. So at any point while I'm writing, I can hit a key and just hear the bottom end of my like master output, or just hear the top end, just hear the mid range. And I tend to, I've found pretty much every time, if my track feels like heavy and hard hitting, but there's just like something lacking, I listen through the different areas, and sometimes it's like, oh, the bass is hitting really hard. The like, you know, busyness or the, you know, the dynamics of the mid range sounds really good, but my top end just doesn't have enough noise, or it's not like busy enough. And then I work on that area. So what I'll do, I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to sort of sit down and work out how to do it in FL in terms of like hotkeys. I'm sure there is a way to do it, or you could get like a MIDI controller for it. But I use this a lot. So I'll do, and they don't have to overlap perfectly. It doesn't matter. It's just like ultimately kind of getting a rough area. So there's my band pass, and then let's do high pass. And I'll just label them. So we got LP, BP, and HP. And I'll just, I think I labeled them wrong.
You made the BP.
Yeah, that's
low pass.
Yeah. Right. Okay, that's the high pass. I got all of them wrong. Okay, and that's BP. All right. Cool. But yeah, so I can listen to just the bottom end. I might make that slope a little less extreme as well.
And what are you exactly listening for when you're doing this? Just like
there's
What
a
abnormalities are standing out that you're trying to look for?
I think there's a couple of things. One of them is, I mean, a good philosophy my friend taught me is basically in each area of the track, or of the frequency spectrum. Sorry, you should really only hear one element that stands out in that area, and that's like down to isolating kind of like a couple of 100 hertz areas. But what you can do instead of having it like this is you can do just like a single band pass and sweep through the spectrum. Yeah, if I isolate this area. In each area, you should only hear one element that's really prominent and nothing else really interfering with it. So if you go through each area and
Like
you
the
find...
200 range for the snare
Yeah,
and so forth.
yeah, and it can be whatever you like, but I'd recommend just trying, like, sweep through, and if you get to an area where you can hear a bunch of shit going on at once, you just can't distinguish all of the different elements, then figure out what thing you want to hear in that area and go through every other sound and turn that frequency area down. I did that for a couple... I don't do this all the time, they're like band sweeping, but I did that for a couple of tracks, and every time it sounds, like, really punchy and beefy. It just, like, created this like clarity, so that's really helpful. I don't always want to be that meticulous. Sometimes I'm just lazy and I kind of just want to make it sound pretty good. So I just have these like preset, band pass, low pass, high pass things, and then the hotkey. But ultimately, if you could only hear that band, like let's say you release the track and you can only hear that band, whatever band you're listening to, does it sound hype? Or does it sound like the vibe you want the track to have? So if I'm listening to my low end and I'm like, yeah, this sounds banging. Like if I could only hear the low end through the wall next door, I would think that's a banging track. For some reason, if I could only hear the treble of this track, and it sounds pretty like low energy compared to when I was listening to the full thing, then I know that if I work on that area, make it more exciting, add more noise or whatever, then that will lift the energy of the entire track.
Okay.
So I definitely recommend that. And then it's also good for like mono and stereo stuff. You can hear if you're gonna have phase issues when you sum stuff to mono. So I think FL Studio you want. I think Stereo Enhancer is the one I would use just to sum stuff to mono. So Stereo Enhancer, and then you just do stereo separation all the way down to negative.
Gotcha. So
And
removing the stereos with this to mono. Gotcha.
Yeah, so all it'll do is it'll just sum left and right together, so it won't, and so all that disappears is the stuff that's like fully side, and then everything else that gets stacked on top of each other. So if you have anything that's like, will phase cancel for some reason, you'll hear it when you sum to mono, so you want to kind of avoid doing stereo effects that, will...
So you should or you shouldn't use those on bass?
I would argue on the sub frequencies, you probably don't want any sort of phase cancellation. You don't want there to be stereo separation. I mean, this is usually the general rule. I'm sure there's instances where people break that rule and it sounds cool, but generally I find you don't want your sub frequencies to be stereo at all, because because most subs are mono, like, and I've played on a bunch of festival rigs and I asked the guy, like, have you ever like run sub, because they might have multiple subs. They might have a sub on the left and the sub on the right. I'm like, do you actually use left and right channels? And they're like, nah, usually we split them, and the sub signal we send is mono. So even if there's a sub and a right sub, they're usually sending a mono signal to that. So if you have any stereo stuff going on, it'll just get summed together and it probably phase cancel.
So that segues to my next question. When you're pulling, pre-made Neurofunk basses and Neuro basses that you've already made, are you putting a sub on that, or are you using that to go into mono? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you mean. It depends on the bass, honestly. So I guess with a lot of my bass, it really depends on the phrasing, I think. So for me, the sub... Yeah, I guess the sub and the neuro bass, depending on how I'm using the neuro bass, the sub might need to be there and it might not. Okay, so for like main basses,
I just pull the basses that I've made from like Massive and Serum, and then that's all I do for the production. I don't like layer it with a sub, because I can't get the same like characteristics as the bass that I've made already. So I just try to beef up the sample I made for the bass,
Right.
and think that's okay. And I don't know if that's the right way to do that or not. So
Yeah, no, I'm kind of I'm in a similar boat because I definitely prefer, like, if you get a bass that sounds good, often the sub harmonics and the bottom end information sounds good as well. And if you layer in a different
Right.
sounding sub, it's either like phase aligning it is annoying because
Yeah.
I like it to sound as cohesive as possible. So I'm generally in the same boat, but yeah, if for some reason my bass is not like, the sub isn't super consistent, or it's like the volume goes all over the place, then in that instance there's a couple of things I might do to kind of ensure that the bass has the punch it needs. Because definitely in terms of phrasing, when I'm putting basses on like emphasis points, like like when I've established a rhythm, like kicks, within my kick snare pattern, I have like points where I want the bass to really like hit and emphasize that drum hit or whatever. It's really important that the sub comes through. Then with fills and stuff, like you on your last, on the 4 on your last bar, where you just have on like some thing, like it's not as crucial, I think, to have sub in there. But yeah, for those main emphasis points, what I might do, if the bass is, I don't know, it's sort of, there's a few ways I go about it. Like one way is what I've been doing more recently is literally just kind of like built into how I process basses is I end up sort of splitting the sub from the top end. So I'll do like a patch for this just so I can kind of...
Before we reach the last half hour or close to, I wanted to answer specific questions on like decibel levels for all instruments and like that process for the mix down, because I've been playing jazz with that for my whole fucking career. What is the right
nice.
dB level for bass compared to kick, compared to snare? And also how to use Pro L. Do you use Pro L on the master track? And to use Pro Ls on single instruments, and when the appropriate time to use a limiter. Do you use a limiter before mix downs or after mix downs?
Yeah.
I'm very confused on that because I use them like arbitrarily. I throw Pro L on a snare, and then after it sounds good on whatever mix down, then I put a Pro L on the master. I don't know if that's the right way of doing things or what, but I know that was a lot. But
No, that's all right. Yeah. I would say I'm not quite arbitrary with it, but I'm kind of case by case. The one time where I'm sort of consistently using Pro L at the moment is just true peak limiting at the end. And this is like nitty gritty stuff. I don't think this, this is like the last like 2% or 1% or, just ticking a particular box. It's not really the thing that's going to like transform my mix downs is that last Pro L. But I use Pro L because it has true peak limiting. So with a lot of like streaming services, I think they measure RMS, but I think True Peak probably factors in there where, if you clip something, what you're doing is clipping the samples. So it's kind of like a rabbit hole to get into, but basically each, when I say sample, I mean like the individual, like the dot. So if your sample rate, when you're like, your audio sample rate is 44.1 kilohertz. Like if I go into here, you can see 44.1 kilohertz. That's how many samples. So they're like literally individual points that tell the computer, this is how loud the sound is here. This is how loud the sound is here. That's what, creates the sound. What happens is between those samples, your computer does like a bit of, or like whatever digital thing you're using, does a little bit of math to kind of guess what frequency it's drawing. So even though you might be clipping the actual individual dot that's saying it is this loud, that little bit of math, or what they call interpolation, that your computer is doing to figure out what the sound should actually be like, can result in the sound actually being louder than that little sample dot that you would clip. So true peak limiting is it actually kind of does that math, and it goes, okay, despite the fact that clipping would say the sound is this loud, it's actually going over that ceiling, so I'm going to turn it down, this much. So I use Pro L for that, but I would say limiting and clipping are really good to use throughout your mixdown. So there's a really good YouTube video on it. A guy called Baphometrics talks about it. He talks about basically clipping everything in your mix to some degree, and it's not necessarily aggressive clipping, but clipping the ceiling or just like the peaks to basically sum everything to get it as loud as possible. So for like, and this is part of the reason I might do groups. So with my drums, what I'll do is I'll often run my kick and my snare. So like this here. All right, we got a lot of shit going on here, so I'm just gonna like move this along a little bit. But I
I
might.
often find myself using Soft Clipper at the end of an FX rack for a drum. You know, I
Yeah.
do a bunch of stuff. I use CRM FX on
Mm.
the snare and the kick, and then I do
Nice.
something like a transient shaper, and then I EQ it, and then I just all this shit, and then a soft clipper on top of that. I don't know if it should be the opposite, where you do a soft clipper at the beginning and then all that on top of it.
I think it could be perks to both, honestly. But yeah,
Okay.
I'm definitely a fan of like, yeah, soft clipper or something like that, some sort of like saturation or distortion on the end
Mhm.
of the drum bus, just to kind of like glue
Okay.
everything together. I think that sounds great. But
Okay.
yeah, you could do it in the beginning as well. I think if your kick and your snare and everything are coming in at different volumes, maybe it might be better to do it at the end of the chain if you have like compression or whatever. But yeah, it really
Right.
depends. It's case by case. But yeah, I'm a fan of
Okay.
definitely having it at the end. And yeah, you can do this for like all your channels or all your buses. But the strategy, and I saw there's also a video, Skrillex, when he put out like Mumbai Power and Fuji Opener, the music videos for those, I don't know if you saw them, but it was just like him
Mm-mm.
in the door, like just showing the
Okay.
project.
Okay.
And in that, he's like literally just clicking on each individual track, and then you can see down the bottom he's got like kind of these buses where he's sending certain elements to, and literally on every single track, I'm pretty sure he had a Pro L, maybe a Clipper, but I think definitely a Pro L. So what he did, and it doesn't necessarily suit all styles of music, but it's a good. I thought it was a really cool strategy. Was basically to sort of extract as much volume out of each individual sound as you could.
Mhm.
I like to do it with clipping because it doesn't, it sort of alters the characteristics of the sound less if you just clip it a little bit rather than doing like hard limiting, but depends on what it is. But with each
Okay.
individual sound, put like a clipper, put a Pro L or something on it and like kind of squash it. And then when you feed it into the next stage, so it might be a drum bus, then you
Mhm.
add clipping or bussing to that, and that will kind of glue everything together in
Mhm.
that way. And then you get to the master stage, everything is already kind of as loud as it needs to be
Mhm.
individually, and then you're just kind of neatly summing everything together, and you don't have to do as much hectic work on the master to get everything loud.
Okay.
From listening to your tunes, I feel like you've got the volume aspect down in terms of like everything is pretty like fat and loud. So
Mhm.
I'm not super worried about that with your stuff, but at the same time, like I think it's a cool strategy to learn from. So I
Yeah, I just don't
definitely
know
got
what
a
I'm
lot out of
doing
it.
right or wrong, you know, because I've got no direction or no mentors, so I'm just like trying to figure out and punch it out. Also, the version that you heard of Psychosis was a post mixdown. I did the actual mixdown for the song at low volumes, and then I used this plugin called, it's made by Infected Mushroom. It's called IMR, and it's like a visual plugin where you can boost levels, spread the stereo, boost the volumes. I don't know if you've ever heard of this plugin
Interesting. I'll
before,
look it
but
up. Yeah, I've got their like widen. Oh, mushroom, mushroom.
Mushroom.
IMR. You said.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. It's
Uh,
hold on, let me pull it up on
it's
my
just a
side.
plugins. I like Polyverse,
Gotta figure out what that is real quick.
Gatekeeper, Wish, Manipulator.
Um,
Hmm. Yeah, I
I
know
am
they've got.
pusher. I am pusher. That's what it's called. And so that's what I used on on the master after I got my mix down to a perfect design. I am pusher is the name of the plugin feature.
Like I just the letters I am or
Yes,
I
I
am
am
pusher. Okay.
pusher. Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, that's alright. I am pusher plugin. Let's have a look. I am pusher.
Yeah, there we go. And
Oh,
so
I
what
am
it
is in
does,
infected mushroom. I see. Ah, okay.
yeah, you sort of boost certain things afterwards on a mix that you've already made. That's what I use to get the finalized version that you hear. And you can choose the key that the the sub is boosted at, and then there's some weird other features about it. I thought it was an interesting way to approach like a master or a mix down, because I've done the limiter thing, I've done the Pro L thing, I've done like super EQing type of thing. And I
Yeah.
tried the I am pusher, and it was very interesting to see the outcome of it. So
Yeah, nice. Okay. Yeah,
yeah, you should check that out and see what it does to your
I
mixes.
will. Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
it'll make it better.
I'll get a mix. Yeah, once we're off call, I'll download it and have a go at it. I don't want to chew up your time with it, but I'll have a go and see if I can, see what I can get out of it. I would say so. Just looking at like direct feedback with your music. So there were some things, like I said, your bass design is sick, and I think your drums and the way you glue your drums and do your phrasing sounds really tight. Where was the one that you sent me? Is that posted yet, or is that
That's
still?
on that's on the YouTube channel. The
Okay.
SoundCloud is kind of the old work. I haven't been able to access it as easily as YouTube, but the YouTube is the
Uh,
thing that I do for my newest track. Psychosis is probably where I'd want the most input on mixed down and the weaknesses and whatnot on YouTube.
yeah, I'm just trying to think. I don't actually. Oh, actually, I can just type in your name. I'm sure that will work. Okay, indoor. Sorry, I'm just fucking all capsing right now like a psychopath. Hopefully, I spelt that right.
You got to do a
Uh,
dash. It's weird. It's
Uh, in your name or
no, in between the track and the name.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. It's so hidden. I'm upsetting. I can
Um,
send you the link easily.
yeah, if you got a link, that'd be easier, I guess.
I'll do that.
Yeah, this is probably a thing to focus on. So I mean, well, I'll jump back. I'll try not to tangent into this too much, but I know you were kind of talking about like wanting to get traction with your stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there's a degree with the whole process with music that you don't have full control over. So I would preface this with like, at the end of the day, you just have to take the pressure off yourself. Just focus on writing music that you want to write, and let the world figure out what it wants to do with that. But I will say that like SEO, like search engine optimization, such like fucking marketing term, but like search engine value does actually play a role. So if I type your name into Spotify, I type your name into Google, I type your name into SoundCloud, if you aren't in the first couple of results, it's going to make it a lot harder for people to, it makes it a lot harder for your music to spread because people just can't find it. So if you
So I
play,
need to do an alias or
maybe. I'm not saying this will this is like the right thing to do, but it's just something to consider. Like I would just like try and empathize with somebody who wants to hear your music, and they like, let's say you just played a set, you just played at a club or whatever, and you went, thanks for coming, my name's Endorphin, and then somebody goes, oh fuck yeah, that was sick, and then they go into Spotify and they type in Endorphin and they like can't find you.
They can't find.
Yeah,
I
that
know.
like little 20-second attention span that they have to try and find you, if they give up,
Dude,
that's like
I
a
know.
fan lost. So it might not be, that might not be crucial, but I would definitely argue that that's a serious thing to consider. Like I have a mate who makes phenomenal music. He's not like a producer. He can produce, but he's like mainly singer-songwriter. His name, he's gone through a bunch of different names, but he went with Mou, M-O-U, for a little bit. And I, like, the amount of times I would be showing people his music, and I type in his name, and I have to scroll through, I'm not even joking, like 50 artists. And I'm like,
Oh, man,
then I'm like,
that's frustrating.
and then I find him, and then they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I'm like, yeah, so if you go to listen to him, you're going to have to scroll through 50 artists. And it's like, people want to hear his stuff, but
Yeah.
that's a big roadblock. So yeah, it's definitely something worth considering, thinking about like how your alias or your branding will interfere with. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just a thought.
I sent you that link. I think it's in your messages.
Sick. All right. I feel like this is gonna open
Sick.
Opera. Yeah, no, let's not do that.
You use Opera too, hey? That's awesome.
Yeah, I've had so many different browsers for different things. I've been using Vivaldi for ages. Oh, it's with a zero. Okay, actually, that's probably what I did wrong. But
Yeah, that's a big issue too. Is it's not spelled because endorphin's such a common use word on YouTube,
Right.
So
I mean, so is Copycat, to be fair. Adding the extra T worked out. But Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
So yeah, weaknesses. Be harsh. Tell me exactly why it doesn't
Yeah, so
attach to a label.
there's I think like volume levels wise, the bass. There's probably like a few like tweaks you could do to the bass, but yeah, the main thing that stands out, and I think it's the same in the other track you sent me. There's something about the processing where the treble. Actually, did you send me? I think you may have sent me like a wave copy of this track, but something
Yes, I
about the
did.
treble sounds like lo-fi, yeah, like the bit rate, or there's something about it that's actually like unusually distorted, like not like saturation. It's kind of more like compression, not compression, like like down sampling. So like low quality.
I think I low pass and then stretch the frequency range to like a little bit above 5K to kind of slant down for hi-hats
Okay.
in how I do hi-hats, and I don't know if that's accurate either. Because I've done mixes and songs where the treble is just way abrasive and it kind of steals the energy, the whole song, because I've always included all those super high frequencies. And
Yeah.
so then people were telling me if your bass is too abrasive, take down some of the highs, and similarly, I thought that go across for hi-hats, but
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it doesn't sound like it's so much like a volume thing where it's like the treble of the bass is too loud or too quiet, or the hi-hats are too loud or too quiet. It's something about the processing that's, it sounds like low quality, or it's distorted in a strange way. And so I don't think it's necessarily your ear for mixdowns. It could be just a type of processing that you're using.
I don't mention processing on the hi-hats. It's usually just simple soft clipping, so
Yeah.
it doesn't overbear anything, and then dropping the dB levels below everything else, so it's not standing out on top of any other instrument. And then that's it. So unless it's just the samples that I'm using itself that you're noticing.
Yeah, maybe. Okay,
But again, that's the lower quality version I sent you.
yeah, do you have? I
Probably
think you
sounds
did send me a like a higher quality version. Yeah, do you mind if you've got like have you got another upload of that, or like a wave version of the track to compare it
I
to? Because I
have
think
a Google Drive link that I can give you. I don't know if
yeah,
you can
that would be
download
perfect
that, or
if you've got
okay,
that.
that's what I sent you last time, but I'll do it again.
Yeah, I think you did. I'm trying to
Because
remember where.
it does not sound the same at all when you look at listen to YouTube, and I guess the streaming services have a habit of doing this type
Yeah,
of thing. So
totally. SoundCloud's a shocker for it. I found like some
yeah,
stuff
I don't
sounds good, and then
understand why. I don't
yeah,
understand why.
they compress really hard. Like they take a lot of data out of the sound when you upload it to
Why?
SoundCloud. It's just
I
to
don't
save
understand.
space, I guess. They convert it to like a lower quality MP3 basically, so they don't have to keep as much information of you as
Yeah.
to save space on their servers. But yeah, no, I have a lot of people that hate sending shit on SoundCloud because it just like makes it sound nasty in the treble. I'll see. 'Cause
I sent
you
it to
sent on
your
Instagram, right?
Instagram.
Yeah. Let
I
me.
did. It's on my other.
Yeah, here we go.
Okay, you got it.
I would argue maybe that if you're using like a lower quality pair of headphones, that it might just be that you like when you're listening in your headphones, you can't hear the treble detail enough to hear that it's like the sort of, and that's nothing to do with like your ear as much as like maybe your headphones just aren't delivering the
Well, if I'm cutting off the frequencies beyond 5K, that would probably make the lo-fi, sound. So maybe I can just remove that type of and just make a high pass from 1000K up for
Is
for
this
a
for
hat.
hi-hats, or the hats sound okay?
Yeah,
It's the bass. It's specifically like the neuro basses. There's something about the top end that's like kind of yeah, it's like
oh,
crunchy in a strange way.
okay.
Let me all right. Let me pull this on Google Drive and see. Fuck. let's not do that again. Birinka. Alright.
There we go.
Oh, actually, yeah, this is one of the reasons I stopped using Vivaldi is because it doesn't like,
Google.
yeah, it doesn't like Google Drive stuff for some reason. It's like totally fine to, it's usually fine to play on the browser, but yeah, just for some reason Vivaldi struggles with it, so we'll go Opera. Actually, is that gonna work? Oh, never mind.
Should.
My internet's probably just slow.
So feature where you could probably download it. There's an icon at the top right corner of the window.
Yeah, maybe I will just
arrow.
to make my life a bit easier.
That might make it easier. If it'll even let you do that. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it doesn't want to
that'll
play in the
be a lot.
browser, so cool. Alright, yeah. Sick.
Oh my god. My idol is downloading my song on my freaking out.
Here we go. Alright, let's drop that into FL Studio.
That's just chunky chunk.
Yeah, big sausage. Yeah, big sausage can sound good. Maybe. I mean, right from the get go, sausage from start to finish maybe is a bit hectic.
Yeah.
But I've heard it
Yeah.
sound good, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. But okay, that is full. Let me switch this over so that you can hear what I'm listening to as well.
Yeah. Compared to civilized defense, it's a very good.
That's alright. I'm not going to be doing any A-Bing.
Good reference there.
Okay, so I've got a whole bunch of shit enabled here that I shouldn't. Yeah, so you said you were rolling off the top end with the bass?
A little bit. No, not with the bass, but sometimes, yeah, I think I do that with bass too, because sometimes I think that the high and the treble takes away from the hi-hats, or it's too abrasive and harmful to the ears. So I've always heard people saying that in certain basses, if you think it's just too trebly, take it down a tiny bit. But
When you do that, do you use like a low pass or do you use like a shelf?
I use like a low pass.
Okay.
Sort of, yeah.
And then in terms of slope, what kind of slope? Is it like a steep slope like that, or do you?
It's like a 45. So like diagonal-ish.
Oh, right foot. Yeah. Okay. So kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not too bad. I would say so. You do that on your bass channel, and then you do clipping and like distortion on your master, usually.
No, not distortion. If you mean distortion, just punching up Pro L, that's the distortion that I get out of it.
Okay,
So
sure.
what I do is I make all my tracks are kind of at a low volume, even the master track on the effects bar.
Right.
And then what I do is I put the Pro L on the master and then just crank that shit up.
Yeah, sure.
So that's kind of my method of doing.
Okay. Yeah, that shouldn't necessarily yield anything too harsh. But yeah, I would say with this, I think the main thing, yeah, like the mid-range sounds good. I think your drums are pretty fat. Hang on, did I just?
I always cut out the 500 frequency range too when I'm doing most tuning.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So yeah, it's this. Let's make sure I've got stuff everywhere. There's also a notch around here. Oh wait, you can't see the plug. This is so frustrating with FL. You can't see the plugin windows.
Not when it's playing either, right? You gotta take off playing the sound.
Yeah, let me.
But it's okay because I'll hear it when you show me the video or when I.
Yeah, that's true. But I'll switch it back for now just so you can see what I'm looking at. But around here, there's like a notch.
I'm trying to remove that 4000K.
Yeah.
Because of that concept. I dig
Yeah,
that.
for sure. I mean, I think you could do some subtle tweaks to that, but I would say that maybe that notch is a little bit extreme.
Okay. Does that
Kind
make it sound lo-fi? Is that what's causing the lo-fi sound, or is it that in a different
of,
way?
I don't think that's the cause of it, but that's probably it's contributing a little bit. I think it sounds a bit
Hmm.
intense. But yeah, the main thing. It's not as bad when the bass pitches up in the intro, like when it goes an octave up. Yeah, it's in that lower octave. So the higher octave, it's like all of those like sort of lo-fi like prickly frequencies move up, and they're not as bad. But I think in that lower yeah, when it's on that lower octave, it sounds like kind of lo-fi. I don't know. Is it a resampled bass?
Yeah, usually that's what I do. I have a bad habit of sometimes exporting basses that I've made on, say, Serum or Massive at the high octave, and then
Yeah.
resampling it, at lower octaves when it's already processed and it sounds like shit. So then I throw saturation, or I throw, you know, EQs to boost up it just for like this lo-fi kind of sound. I've kind of
Yeah,
done this because that's just how I've done it, and the only thing that I had access to was just samples that I could just move up an octave and
for
not
sure.
actually use VSTs. And so I kind of I never lost that habit, I guess,
Yeah, I mean
which is not
that's
good
like
for everything.
yeah, I mean that can be okay. I do that too. Sometimes I make a bass and the sweet spot is like an octave up or whatever, and then I want to pitch it back down. Some basses it's more prominent than others, like that kind of like down sampling, because
Yeah,
obviously like the
grainy,
higher,
grainy.
yeah, exactly, like the more you pitch it down, the less treble detail you're going to end up with at the end result, and sometimes it does sound bad. I would argue so with this bass, because there's a lot of treble. It's like a noisy kind of Reese bass. I
Yeah.
think you're going to hear it a lot more when you pitch it down. So if you do like boosting and saturation in that top end, it's definitely going to get like some kind of lo-fi characteristics. So one way you could get around that, if you're wanting to resample a bass that's like pitched up, is I would probably layer in like white noise or something like that, or find a way to add treble in that doesn't involve like saturating the top end or just boosting it if it sounds gnarly. So one little sneaky way of doing it. Let
The
me just.
interesting thing is that bass is not even introduced in any other part of the song. It's just meant for intro atmosphere. It's not even in the rest of the song. It's just there.
Right. Yeah.
Builds you up into the crunchy hardcore neurofunk bass.
Yeah. Right.
It's like a teaser bass. It's a teaser bass. I like to tease, like, oh, you think this is what you're gonna hear in the song, but you're actually gonna hear something cooler
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Shit
No, I like
that.
that. I'm a fan of that strategy.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
I think that the drums and the hi-hats sound pretty clean. Like they don't have that sort of like crunchy top end. It's just the bass pretty much there, and then I think. Yeah, so there's a little bit of like harshness in the top end with these basses, but it's not. Yeah, it's not as bad. Like I think it's yeah, I think it's just like treble processing stuff. This bass is also really wide. You could probably make this a little bit less like stereo panned. But yeah, I'd say it's processing stuff. I want to kind of, because I feel like we might run out of time today, but I do kind of want to see a project or something and see if I can help there. I'm not trying to like, tee you up
No,
for
yeah,
another lesson or
totally.
anything like that, but if you've, I don't know if
I
you're
definitely
able
would tee
to.
up for another lesson to do that also. So,
Okay, yeah, I
let me
mean,
see.
no pressure on that either way. I want to try and get as much into this lesson as I can in terms of this.
Right.
I don't know if you're able to open FL Studio on your end and like, can you screen share from your
Yeah,
end?
I
Does that
was
work?
doing it. I was doing that earlier, and here I go. I'm going to open up FL first. I think it's already here. Why is it not showing on the...
Or even better, I don't know if it'll take too long, but if you're able to do like a zipped loop file for the project and send it to me, I can even open it on my end and see if I can just poke around on it.
I just have I've never done that before because I've only
Yeah,
ever
true.
used my own self. So let me see. Why isn't it showing that? Should show now. Come on. Oh, there we go. Here we go.
Yeah, we can just try screen share for now and see what happens. But
That,
yeah, that's
You see
looking. Yeah, I see that. It looks good. And I feel like
let me.
we're gonna run into that issue where I can't see the plugin windows, which is annoying. But
Maybe. But here's Psychosis. Please don't crash. And it takes forever. I have the shittiest computer ever, but so this is all before I added the infected mushroom pusher, and it sounds much lower as a result. So a lot of the dynamics that you hear in the wave version came from the IM pusher, so it will
Yeah.
sound different.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
You'll hear the backdoor version of it, or whatever, behind the curtain, behind the
Yeah.
behind the Wizard of Oz. I just downloaded Ghost, by the way, a demo version. So
Oh,
I'm gonna
nice.
Try to learn how to. I love FM basses. I have never been experienced with the FM8, but oh come on, please don't do that.
Well, I'm glad that you're starting with Ghost and not FM8. FM8 sucks to use. It's like, I mean,
I've had FM8 for many years, but it just couldn't get the. Everybody's like, oh, the Skrillex bass, FM8. That's how it's done. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
yeah. I mean, it's so funny. I still to this day don't think people have fully figured out how to replicate that bass. It's pretty funny, that like Skrillex bass. But yeah, FM's good for that. But FM8 as a plugin, it's just like the interface is not. It's not intuitive. It's like difficult. Whereas Ghost is good. Ghost is like actually a good way to experience FM synthesis.
FM is such an interesting way to make basses. It's just like a fundamental sound brick to create sounds off of with distortion,
Yeah.
saturation, and then using vocodecs on top of something like that is just a beautiful way to really create some sound design.
Yeah.
Come on. My computer's freaking out because Discord. Oh, and the transient
That's all right.
shapers are not hitting the way they're supposed to. Sometimes I have to reload the program for transient shaper to go back to its original shape that I had it for.
Oh damn.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I feel this
Yeah.
hard.
Come on. You're making me look bad, computer. Okay, here we go. It's working now. I got to share my screen. Oh, it's still alive. Okay, here we go. So, do you see that? No, you don't. I heard a boo-doo-doo-doo. Can you hear me?
Yep. It's just got Saturn selected as the streaming window. I think you might have to change that to FL Studio.
Weird. Hold on a second. Yo, what the hell? Okay. Share screen. There we go. All right.
Ooh, it's doing something. It's kind of jumping around. Try close Saturn. Just close the Saturn window. Just we'll see if it just default to a different window.
I'm not even selecting Saturn, which is the weird part. Let me just.
Oh yeah, if you hit F12, I think it is. It closes like all of the open windows.
Well,
I think F12. Yeah, there we go. Hey, yeah, I can see FL Studio.
okay, so you can see the playlist now.
Yeah. So if you hit
Alright,
play, does that? I feel like that should send audio. There we go. Yep, beautiful.
Look at all this sidechain.
Yeah, that's hard work. Yeah, can you solo or turn that bass off? Yeah, channel
one?
6. Just mute that channel for me. And then yeah, so I can hear everything else, like the drums and stuff. Yeah, so the snare and stuff sound perfectly clean and fine. Yeah, can I see? I'll just go back to just play it from the start with that bass still muted. Or like the very beginning. Yeah, so sound-wise, this is pretty fine. Go to maybe the pad channel in the mixer. Just want to see the processing on there. Yeah.
Oh no, this is the.
Oh, that's that one. What's in Serum Effects? What I'd love to do if I can, I think I have maybe Pro Q. I don't know if I have Pro Q3. It might be a bit of a challenge there, but
It's a beautiful plugin.
yeah, I know it's yeah. All of my homies have Pro Q3. I'm in the Stone Age with some of my plugins. But
Yeah.
if I could get this project and open it and have a look, then I might be able to get an idea of what's happening with the processing, just to make some of those like harsher top end frequencies, because it's I think it's just to do with like EQ. Do you mind if I see in the bass channel? Show me the Pro Q3 in that, just both of those, if you're able to open those. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
So this is the pre.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that's before soft clipping, is it?
No, it's that one, and then the Serum FX, which has got
Oh yeah,
all
that's
this
got
shit
some
on it.
distortion. Okay. Yeah.
And then another Q, and this is how I do most basses, as I take out
Oh yeah, the notch.
for snare, and then the 4000 notch, and then it cones off here
Yeah.
to 14,000.
Okay.
I don't know how that even sounds like it's overpowering if I'm cutting those off. So I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Okay. Can I
This is
hear
actually awesome. So
me play just the bass or the intro with the bass, but just turn off that first Pro Q3? Because I would say maybe the extreme EQ peaks in like the 3K to just before the Serum Effects, that might be
let's see.
particularly going into some distortion. If you peak like treble frequencies into distortion, you probably like create some like more harsh frequencies.
Okay, let's listen to it without it.
Sweet. The display is freaking out because it's like trying to look at all the different plugin windows at the same time. It's pretty funny. But,
Should I close the windows with F12 again? Let's see, maybe that'll work.
yeah, maybe close just the Pro Q3 windows and then open up the playlist again.
Yeah, okay, so I did F12 to close all the windows. Does it show just the...
Yep, that's all sweet. And then just the playlist view again. I think it's
playlist?
sweet.
And then start from the beginning, and then
And
show you the bass.
sick. Yeah, that's
So that's without.
yeah. I definitely think that I can still hear some of those like down sampling effects, and I'd say that's just from like pitching it down. But I think that Pro Q3 is peaking some like harsher frequencies. Just like having like sort of steep bell curves in that top end. If you send that into distortion, it can create some like kind of more harsher like.
So that might change the sound of the main bass entirely, because that was on the main bass. This is on that beginning bass and the main basses. So maybe we'll listen to
Yeah.
the core bass just
Cool.
to
Yeah, for
get
sure.
an idea what that difference is.
So all the bass is going into that channel?
Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. Sweet.
So the main bass at the beginning, and then this bass that's supposed to be the chorus.
Yeah, to me that definitely sounds less like intense and harsh in the top end with those with that first Pro Q3. Like you could probably, if you wanted to get some of those like tonal balances back, you could probably put some of those like curves and stuff back in. But yeah, definitely those peaks in the top end before the distortion are what are causing some of those harsh frequencies, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say if you're gonna boost treble elements, I would do it after any sort of like really intense distortion, because if you run any like basically my like soft rule of thumb is any intense distortion, I try to do most of my I try to like keep my boosting mostly toward the low end, because the harmonics that you get out of that are going to be more natural and predictable. Whereas the further up the spectrum you go when you're going into distortion, the sort of more like harsh and nasty those like frequencies that you get out of the distortion are going to be. So if you want to boost like treble or get more of that sound out, I would do that boosting in the treble after the distortion, and then you'll get less like harsh frequencies. But your bass design is good. I think that's why I wanted to kind of get nitty gritty with that for a little bit, because I think the like kind of crunchiness, particularly that main bass, like on the drop, they're like bro, bro, bro. That's like a fucking crunchy ass bass. I don't know if you've heard.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and that makes me elated coming from you. Honestly, it really does.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Compliment. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you know there's a track, you know, Disprove?
Oh, of course I do. Yeah, he's one of my favorites.
Sick.
Verso Disprove, that whole movement, pretty much.
There's a track that the bass, the main bass in your tune reminds me of. Let me pull it up. I used to like froth this tune. This is like specifically because of this bass. I used to love this tune. Let me copy that link. Yep. The bass in that. Let me find the time code just to save you some scrubbing time. Just gonna watch an ad really quickly. Oh my god. I get heaps of these like really goofy game ads because I think they're really funny, so I usually share them. Like if I get something really stupid looking, I'll send it to my friend, but every time I do that I get more of these ads, so I kind of shoot myself in the foot. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Yeah, around like 103 you can hear this bass. And then it's like in the drop and everything, but I think it sounds particularly similar around like 103 with that. Yeah, it's just like crunchy. I love that bass. It's just like super.
I can't hear that now, but I'll hear it on the recording.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I sent the link in Discord if you want to peep it, but yeah, we don't have to do that right now.
And before we, I think we're about to end here. I just wanted to show you the new track that is inspired by you, if you're interested.
Oh, sick! Yeah, for sure. That sounds great.
Can you see it?
I can see it's doing the crazy window switching. You might need to close the plugin windows and just do the the playlist.
Do that. Such a weird thing to happen.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a mixture of Discord having like unusual technology for like screen sharing, and also FL Studio probably having a weird way of windowing things.
Alright, you got it?
Alright, yeah, I can see that perfectly.
Okay. So, it's inspired by you.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, his bass is sick.
Not proud of any of this, but proud of this part.
That's true. Phil.
I mean, all this stuff was actually a sample I made with the didgeridoo that you actually see behind me. I recorded it and processed it with OTT and shit.
Oh shit.
And
Okay.
Since you're from Australia, I thought that would be
Yeah. Sound of my people.
yeah. Yes.
That's funny. Yeah, you know,
Thank you for humoring me.
your phrasing is really good. I think you have a really good sense of like call and response type stuff. I hear in all of those like different sections there was kind of like main bass phrase and then like a really good like response phrase, and then the fills are in the right spots. I think you've got a good sense of arrangement. And I think the weak point with your music is just the mixdown type stuff. So with those basses, there's some that are like quite loud and wide, and there are some that are a bit more quiet and like right in the middle of the stereo field. So I think getting those parts of your sound tightened up would showcase, I think, your songwriting a lot more, because I think your arrangement and like the way that you phrase stuff is really good. And yeah, in that last section, definitely there's like a distinct kind of like vibe switch, and then like all the sounds that you've laid in and how you position them is sick. So yeah, I think it's just mix down stuff for you that will help a lot. I was hoping to sort of
As I
like
go forward from this video, what should I take from this to work on to actually get forward into a label saying, okay, I want to work with this, I want to sign this,
yeah.
so on and so forth.
I would say, look, if it were me, the first thing I would say is I'd consider getting like a nicer pair of headphones. Not to hang shit on your current headphones, but I think
No, totally,
it'll
totally.
definitely some of it may be just that your headphones aren't fully communicating the like details of the mix. So if you get like a nice, and it doesn't have to be like, you know, some $1,000 pair of headphones like mine. These ones, they're a little pricier than I think you'd need. Like I think these were like 400 or something, or 450 AUD. I got these like 10 years ago and they've lasted forever, which is cool. But Audio Technica M50Xs are like a really common one that you run into. They're like probably $150 or something like that, but they're just like a good run-of-the-mill one, like really flat response, pretty decent stereo field. But I find for a lot of producers, they're definitely enough to be able to hear everything. And then also, yeah, if you can get some monitors or like some like studio monitors, that will help. You could get like KRK Rockets, I think people say are pretty good, and like, yeah, like Rocket 6s or something like that, like 6-inch, or I think the Yamaha HS series, there's like a smaller one, like, yeah, like 6-inch or 7-inch you can get, and that'll give you just a full stereo, like that'll give you like a full spectra response. You'll be able to feel the bass and that sort of thing. I would definitely recommend investing in at least one good reference point. If it's headphones and then you just have some like more basic speakers that you can just hear volume levels on, I think that's enough. It's good to reference on multiple things, but you should have at least one set of speakers, whether it's headphones or speakers, that just have like full range of like clarity. So I think that will definitely help. Visual tools. So we didn't really cover this. You asked before about like volume levels for like basses and drums and that sort of thing. I find having an oscilloscope or printing audio can help with this. But what I generally do, there's a good one. I think this might be free actually. Sciscope. If it's not free, it's like I'll pull it up. Hang on. Here we go. Sciscope. I'm pretty sure it's free, and then there's like a paid version. Can you see this window on my screen?
I see just you on your mixer tab looking at different effects.
Oh yeah,
showing
okay.
up.
Yep.
Now I see it. Yeah, now I see it.
It's let me see. Oh yeah, cool.
It's like a band. It's like a band thing.
Yeah. This. So if can you see like the waveform printing?
No, I just see the Discord and FL. Okay, now I see it. Now
Okay.
I see a
Might just be lagging.
wavelength.
You can see that?
I can see a wavelength going up and down on Sciscope.
Yeah. So this will help, I think. I mean, this is obviously like super loud, but I'll just turn this down. Yeah, get a visual reference like this. Honestly, I think the volume levels in this track, in terms of like the main elements, are pretty good. Like the kick and snare are like kind of at a good volume. Maybe They're pretty good, but having a visual reference can help. Generally, what I shoot for with output, I try to have my drum transients a little bit louder, like visually, just sitting a little bit higher than everything else. It's like 1 or 2 dB, and that'll just help your transients kind of poke out of the mix. I don't know if you have a problem with your transients popping out. Honestly, they sound pretty clear to me. But
So,
I would,
like on the scale of a FX track, then your bass is hitting the highest dB level, which is -1, and then the drums are slightly below that, and then so on and so forth.
other way around. So the drums are the loudest element, but only by like
Okay.
1 or 2 dB, and then the sub end, like the bass, will probably be close to that, but maybe a couple of dB quieter than my drums.
Okay.
Yeah, you can shoot for like 1 or 2 dB, just to get those transients popping, and then you can also limit that at the end. But I just think in terms of like before you do all your limiting and mastering shit, like having your drums kind of hit a little bit harder than everything else can be a good like default. Doesn't always sound good that way. I think, like I said, like with all rules of thumb, there's room to kind of flex, but I think that's a good sort of starting block, is just to try and have your drums a little bit louder. But honestly, I think your drums, for the most part, sound like they're at a good volume. Maybe in the
What
intro.
I'm mixing it as is the bass is the loudest thing, and then the kick is slightly below in dB, and then the snare is slightly below that in dB. Trying to do the Fletcher Munson curve, because I always thought that was
Oh yeah, right.
the good rule of thumb. So because if the bass is the loudest thing, then everything else can will be perceived, and it's not the opposite, like the hi-hats being louder than the bass. You wouldn't be able
Right.
to perceive the bass. So I always did bass loudest, kicks second loudest, snares third loudest.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Slanting down.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Fletcher Munson curve is pretty useful. I think with your mix downs, I think the basses are probably a little bit louder than they should be in the like mid range. Like, so you don't necessarily. It could be an EQ thing rather than an overall volume thing. Like, you could leave, because looking at the waveform here, your sub's kind of hitting a good level. Like, you can visually look at how loud the sub is and kind of tell. And looking at this, it kind of, yeah, it sounds fine. But the kind of upper end of your bass, like your high mids upward, that can come down, I think, and then that will kind of make room for your drums. So yeah, if I was gonna do that, I'll come to. You won't be able to hear it, but actually don't know. Yeah, it's here. I left this fucking EQ on. Let me just reset this. Yeah, I would do something like that, where I just like turn down the top end of the bass. For like mix downs and like for mix downs where you're like adjusting volume levels in relation to each other, I don't tend to do a whole lot of like really drastic peaks or notches or anything like that. It tends to be sort of simple things like a subtle, kind of like a wide bell curve or a soft like shelf or something like that. Those are the things that kind of bring balance to your mix downs. But yeah, I would say your basses in the top end are a little bit loud, so you could turn that down.
Okay.
Basically there upward. But yeah, I'm just trying to think. So main takeaways, yeah, I would invest in maybe a better pair of headphones or a better pair of speakers. If you're used to using headphones primarily, I would maybe shoot for headphones. Because I'm the same. Like my speakers aren't that great. Like, they're technically studio monitors, so they're pretty good. But my headphones, I use a shit ton. So having them be like really good, it definitely helps a lot for me. So yeah, better headphones. Try and have your basses a little bit quieter, so your drums, you can leave your drums at the same level, but yeah, just turn down the top end of your basses a little bit and like high mids. And don't peak try to avoid peaking like treble frequencies into distortion. There's a rabbit hole that we didn't go down today about aliasing, which particularly applies to treble frequencies and that sort of thing. I'll try and do like a really short summary of it, but basically there's a frequency limit as to how high a frequency can go in digital audio before it actually starts to generate artifacts or like other like weird harsh frequencies going down the spectrum. It's called the Nyquist theory, not Nyquist theory. It's the Nyquist, basically the Nyquist point. And when you distort things, what it does is it adds harmonics above the frequencies that you're distorting. So the higher you go, the further you go to this like Nyquist cutoff point, and then it starts reflecting frequencies back down. FabFilter has a really good video on it. It's a bit of a rabbit hole and a bit heady, but ultimately, the higher frequency, a good rule of thumb is just basically like the higher frequencies you distort, the more likely you are to get harsh frequencies coming back. So I try to keep most of my distortion for like sound design and that sort of thing in the lower end. And if I'm doing treble distortion, I'll try and do something a little bit more just like a flat shelf boost rather than like bell peaks into distortion, because you'll get harsh frequencies out of it. But yeah,
Duly noted.
cool. There's a few takeaways for you. But yeah, honestly, man, I think your songwriting and your sense of like phrasing and that sort of thing is really good. So
I appreciate that.
yeah, I'm glad we can jump in and do this, because I think it'd be cool to
And I'm going to
showcase
give you
that.
more money. I just don't know when is more free time that you will have in the future. I know your schedule is probably racked with performances, but when are you going to be able to do this again?
So obviously at the moment I've got the schedule open until the beginning of February. I might open up another week after that. But I haven't opened up the calendar any further than that at the moment.
Okay.
Because I'm moving to Colorado. So basically once
Nice.
I've done the
Good,
move,
good.
yeah, I'm hyped. I'm looking forward to that. But
Dude,
once
I bet there's a lot of good bass music out there. Good, visionary artists. Like many, many good things have come out of there. So I'm actually happy that you've gone that route.
Thank you. Hell yeah. But once I'm there, because I think like most of the time my performances are on weekends. And I guess
Right,
while
of
I was
course.
touring last year, it was pretty hectic, so I didn't do any tutoring just because I was like, I need the time to rest between shows. But I think the show's gonna be a little less crammed and hectic this year. So once I find a rhythm with my weeks, I might consider opening up slots something more regularly. So I'll let you know if that's the case, and I'd say it's likely I'll have a day or two free during the week to do it. So yeah, if you're keen to do it again, I'll definitely keep you in mind and just let you know once I've got some slots free.
Definitely keen to do it again, and we'll keep in contact. And you can let me know whenever you have more space freed up, and I'll put in orders right away.
Yeah. Okay. Hell yeah. That sounds good, man. Also,
Dude,
if you
I
get
love
any
this.
time,
I appreciate you so much, man. This is a lifelong dream to speak to somebody that I idolize and I look up to, helping me out. It's been really hard, and there's been a lot of setbacks, depression, almost wanting to quit producing, stuff like that. So
I get
you're
that.
livening up my spirit again.
Awesome, man. No, I appreciate it. I'm glad I can do that for you. I totally get, the creative journey and the ups and downs of it. So I'm glad I can,
Yeah.
put some joy into it for you. That's awesome. Yeah. Also, if you get time to, or if you figure out how to like do a zipped loop file of that project or any projects you're working on, I don't know when I'll get time to do it, but it would be cool at some point to try and bust open one of those projects and just see if I can do a few little tweaks.
Okay.
And,
All right.
and see
Yeah,
if I
I'll
can
look
kind of
into
like,
that.
yeah, cool.
So
Awesome.
the zip loop, is that what
Yeah,
it's
so actually I can show you here. If you go File, Export,
called? Okay.
zipped loop package is what you're looking for. And what that does is it puts the FL Studio project and then it puts all of the samples that FL Studio is using
Okay.
in that folder as well. So you can send me all of that and I should have all the samples. The one
Good to
roadblock
know,
will
good
be
to
if
know.
we have like a difference in plugins. There'll be some plugins missing. Um,
True.
I can probably figure out Pro Q3 or sort something out there, so I might be able to open it anyway, but I'll definitely be able to open the FL Studio project, but there just might be plugins missing. But if you do a zip loop package, the samples will be in there. So,
That sounds amazing. All right.
Hell
Thank
yeah.
you, Andre.
no worries,
Appreciate your
Yuri.
time.
Yeah, it was good
We'll
to
talk
chat.
again soon.
All right, sounds good, man. I'll send you this recording after we finish. Actually, I'll stop
Awesome.
it now so we don't have to